This is 24 hours with the brand new limited edition Steam Deck OLED in white. Let's dive into it.
I'ma put you in the dirt.
So by now, most of you probably know what a Steam Deck is, but if for some reason you don't, it's basically a handheld gaming PC. So right off the bat, the unboxing experience for this was almost identical to every other Steam Deck I've ever owned. Of course, this is a limited edition, so it is a top spec model. It has a 1 terabyte internal SSD, and of course, it has the anti-glare etched glass, which I will say is super nice to have. It also comes in at $680, which is a little steep for a Steam Deck, I must admit. As far as availability goes, it's going to depend on your region. Basically, once the stock runs out in your region, that's it, it's out of stock. I think at the time of recording this video, it's still available in the US, so if you're interested in picking this up for yourself, now's your time to go get it, especially as we approach Black Friday. And so in the box, you get, of course, the Steam Deck itself, which comes in a white case this time around and a white removable liner. On the inside, the pattern is unique to the limited edition. It reminds me a lot of this pattern on these Adidas shoes that I got a few years ago. Not as cool as last year's limited edition, but cool nonetheless. And then of course in the case you have the Steam Deck itself in all of its glory, which I will say the white isn't a surgical white. It's more of an off-white, if that makes any sense. It doesn't particularly lean toward any hue necessarily. It's just kind of off-white. And you're either gonna love that or not love that. I guess the best way to put it is not a Stormtrooper edition, if that's what you were looking for, especially because the controls and the sticks are not black. They're actually like an off gray color, like a, light gray color, which I'm actually kind of a fan of. The best way I can describe the white color is that of white chocolate, believe it or not. It even has like the tiny glittery shimmer in it that white chocolate seems to have. If you know what I'm talking about, you're probably nodding your head. You're like, okay, yeah, I know what he's talking about. If you don't, it's not perfectly white. That's all you need to know. And of course, because it is a limited edition, you do get a limited edition startup, which you saw at the beginning of the video, which I think is super cool. And you also get a limited edition keyboard, which is by far the cleanest one out there. So I will absolutely be swapping over to it. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the box. You don't get anything else limited edition, nothing special, nothing that notates it as a limited edition other than the fact that it's white. So pretty basic in my opinion. What I did with it for those 24 hours that I've had it so far is I just went through the setup process, which was exactly the same as the old Steam Deck, so nothing new has changed there. It's very straightforward. I downloaded a few games and basically just played games all night, like you do with a Steam Deck. I played a lot of Lego Star Wars, which was a lot of fun, and I forgot that this supports HDR, which if you haven't tried HDR yet, stop this video right now. Go try HDR as soon as you can, because in my opinion, it's probably one of the most game-changing settings that you can possibly enable, especially if you have a display that really can do it. The Steam Deck has a 1000 nit peak brightness for HDR, which is more than most other handhelds I've seen or used, and trust me when I tell you, it really does make a difference, especially in games like Lego Star Wars, where the lightsabers are like actually really bright. The same can be said for Cyberpunk. I played a lot of Cyberpunk on this as well. It just so happened that I was like right at the end of my playthrough, so I was actually witnessing a new ending for once, which was really cool. Which, by the way, if you haven't played Cyberpunk since they updated it, now's a great time to get back into it. Phantom Liberty was also fantastic, so if you're getting a new Steam Deck, highly recommend Cyberpunk. But yeah, HDR looked fantastic on that as well, and those two games are primarily what I played most of the evening. I did download Cult of the Lamb, and I also downloaded the Aperture Desk Job, which comes with the Steam Deck, which is just a great way to experience all of what the Steam Deck has to offer. It kind of goes through all of the controls, the haptics, the touchpad, the gyro, which I forgot the Steam Deck even had a gyro until I played that game again. It takes like 45 minutes to go through it. If you get a new Steam Deck and you're new to it, just play through it. It's fun. It's got a lot of, silly humor to it. And yeah, that was pretty much my 24 hours. I charged the Steam Deck probably like 2 or 3 times. Of course, the first time I charged it was like right when I unboxed it, which if you don't charge your device as soon as you open it, shame on you. You absolutely should be doing that. And then I probably charged it again after playing for a little while. Battery was as expected. The website says it should get anywhere between like 3 to 12 hours. Heavily depends on what you're doing with it. I would say a more realistic number for like Cyberpunk or Lego Star Wars or any of these 3D titles that are a little more intense and with HDR enabled, probably looking at closer to an hour, hour and a half, which honestly is not bad if you're just like sitting on your couch. But if you're like out and about, I would probably play something like Cult of the Lamb or something that's more 2D, a little lower power, maybe bring the brightness down a little. But overall, the battery life on the OLED model is substantially better than the LCD model. So regardless, all good there. So I guess that brings me to the question, who is this for? And I have a couple answers to that. This is basically for anyone who A, hasn't bought a Steam Deck yet, that's looking for an excuse to get one, that just sees the white and they're like, yep, that's the one for me. This is also maybe for someone who has an LCD Steam Deck that still hasn't quite made the jump to the OLED model. Maybe now is a better time for them. And then the third person would be someone like myself who's just more of a collector, more interested in just kind of getting their hands on every new model that comes out. It's definitely not a necessary thing. If you've already got a Steam Deck LCD, I honestly don't think you have to upgrade to an OLED by any stretch of the imagination. It is a worthwhile upgrade if you use your Steam Deck all the time. I think this is a great one to jump up to because it's got all the new bells and whistles. Believe it or not, the Steam Deck is actually relatively affordable for a portable gaming device when you consider that like the ROG Ally X starts at $800 for a 1 terabyte SSD, and this, which is the top of the line Steam Deck, is $680. So do with that information what you will, but I honestly would still push more people toward the Steam Deck than I would push them toward the Ally. Generally speaking, the Steam Deck, in my opinion, what makes it so good is that it is the most accessible turnkey gaming experience you can have today. And that's pretty all-inclusive for pretty much any game out there. Of course, it is still limited mostly to the Steam library, but Steam's library continues to grow daily. And not only that, but Valve is one of the first to put out a verified program, which basically allows developers to develop their games to run really well on the Steam Deck hardware. Games like Cyberpunk are Steam Deck verified, which means all the controls, the graphics, the performance, all of these things just natively work on the Steam Deck so that the experience is really seamless. So I think if you're someone who wants the least resistance when it comes to playing games on a handheld, the Steam Deck is by far the way to go. But with that being said, I'm actually kind of curious, what would you want in a Steam Deck 2? Do you think it's gonna come out next year? Do you think it's gonna come out in 2 years, 3 years? Is it ever gonna come out? Just like Half-Life 3 never came out? I know for me, my wish list would be a 1080p display and maybe a even better battery. I'd love to see an 80 watt hour battery in the Steam Deck, just like the Ally X, so that we can start really pushing those numbers. And then a 1080p screen, of course, just to have that extra little bit of resolution. And of course, a new chip. I feel like that's kind of a given. Obviously, as time progresses, the processors get better and better and more efficient. So hopefully Valve will come out with a better performing one. So yeah, otherwise, I think that the design, the shape, the controls, the buttons, all that stuff, SteamOS, all that stuff is great. I don't think they got to mess with that much. I really do think that they just need to continue to refine what already makes the Steam Deck so great. But that's going to do it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button. And as always, make sure to subscribe to see more content like this. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.